call our meeting to order tonight. Kelly, if you do the roll call, please.
Here.
Here. Gookin.
What?
McEvers.
Here.
Miller. Here. Wood. Here.
Let's rise. Do we have Pastor Jeffrey Winkler here tonight? There we go. There he is. Jeffrey's with the New Life Church. Welcome.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for who you are. Thank you for your grace that's upon this body, these leaders of our community. Thank you for Coeur d'Alene. We pray that you continue to bless us, give us wisdom on how to handle the growth, how to handle each other well, with love and respect. We pray that your wisdom and your spirit would lead all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Dan, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
Certainly. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't have any amendments to the agenda tonight. Next up is public comment. We do have a couple of public hearings in regards to vacations. If you're here and would like to comment on any of those vacations, that will come at the end of the meeting. But if anyone has anything for just general public comments, you can come on up. Lead us off.
Hello, my name is Michelle Brown, and I reside at 1012 North 5th Street in Coeur d'Alene. I'm here today to propose a change in the city RV code regulations. I live with my husband, who is away from home 3 days a week for work. Our neighbor has rented her non-habitable garage to known drug abusers for about the last 7 months. The garage has no water, no electricity, no utilities at all, no bathroom. Let's see. These drug abusers have been arrested 4 times in the last 6 months for drug violations. They've moved into the garage and made it their home for over 7 months. Naturally, a dark element and criminal activity has ensued. There are people coming and going all hours of the days and night. And there are people at times hanging out and sleeping on our property as well. It's quite honestly a very scary situation for me, and it's like being held hostage in my own home. We have complained numerous times to the city asking for help. Building codes regarding ADUs have been presented to the city with the hope that the illegal ADU will be shut down. Once they move out of the garage, we worry that they will move into their vehicle and sleep on the cement pad just outside the garage. They are aware that there's no code against this and have said as much. Clearly, this will not resolve the criminal activity taking place in the alley. I'm asking respectfully that the mayor and council amend the code regarding sleeping in RVs, trailers, and boats within the city. I encourage the amendment to include personal vehicles and specify non-enclosed areas of residential property. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been an issue that the city has been working on for quite some time now. I did get your email in regards to your suggestion, and I forwarded it on to the city attorney, and they are going to review that and see what can be done there. And Troy, you may just highlight a few of the things that we have done that we can do. You're right, sleeping in a vehicle on someone's property is not against code. But we're going to certainly look into that to see what can be done to improve that situation. So, Troy, you might just give a bit of information on what we have done in regards to that situation.
Yes, thank you. We've been in contact and take this matter very seriously. The city has reached out to the owner and have confirmed that there is no one to be sleeping there. They know that, and thus that activity has taken place because it is not habitable and does not qualify at all. The code section gets interesting as you look to modify it based on what does living mean and defining that. So there's some nuance to that we are looking at.
Okay.
And then we've had code enforcement out there a number of times. So, yep, we are working on your suggestions and seeing what we can do in the code.
Yes. Just to give a little feedback, I mean, have been reading the emails too, and, I can appreciate, we had a house at 9th and Garden for a lot of years, and actually after we were out of there, but I was getting contacted by people because the new owner was letting people, live, sounds like a very similar thing to yours, in the garage, and somebody asked, is that a place somebody could live in? I said, no, it's an old garage with a dirt floor and was a wood shed, and so these are tough things, and I have to balance between somebody has, if we had family coming and gee, they want to sleep in the the camp trailer for a couple of weeks and the kids, so, to balance on. And so, yeah, it might be a little hard, take some work. On the other hand, I have to believe, there's a way to get this done so that we can protect people and so that you feel safe and that we don't have people, given the high-pressure demands of people having a place to sleep and all, I get that, but it can't be at the expense of, your safety and the neighborhood's peace of mind. And so, we've got to thread the needle on this, so.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so thank you for coming forward, and we're going to follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Others wishing to give public comment tonight are welcome to come up.
Good evening. My name is Jason Evans. I'm a member of the CanCourse LLC, and I'm speaking to you in support of the Resolution 21-047 that you'll be considering later in this meeting. The gist of the resolution is to lease the property, the CanCourse property, to manage it as a city natural park. I just wanted to give a little bit of background on my own thinking on where this is at right now. Back in 2018, when I first approached the Lake City Trail Alliance about possible collaboration opportunities in terms of the trail system, I got an interesting question from Charlie Miller. It was a question I didn't have a satisfying answer to at the time. That is, paraphrasing, of course, 3 years ago now. How do we know you will allow access after we improve the trails? Well, the agreement that you have before you provides a really good answer to that. It's a 5-year agreement. And as soon as that goes into effect, people know that they can volunteer, that they can make improvements to those trails, that they can care for them, and that they'll get a return on their investment. I guess the other thing I wanted to say is we tend to think of preserving access in terms of future generations, but I've kind of learned some hard lessons over the past couple of years that it can be hard to preserve it even for the current generation. Of course, that's the first step for the long term, and I think you have an excellent first step ahead of you. I really encourage you to take it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, go ahead. Dan would have a
Will
question.
you take a question?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Jason. This issue has intrigued me, mostly because I think it would be a better fit for the county, but you didn't go with the county. Can I ask why?
Well, let's see. There are a good number of issues there. Actually, I recall some time back looking at the park system for the county, and most of the work that they do with parks has to do with, if I recall correctly, water access. The kinds of parks that we typically think of, the open spaces like the city park there in the Copper Ridge neighborhood, the Canfield Mountain Natural Area. There really isn't anything like that in the county. I think the other thing that really made this fit better with the city is the fact that there is a city park directly adjacent to this, and the CanCourse is the conduit for connecting that city park to the national forest. And so in terms of collaboration and kind of cohesiveness of that as a park space, the city is actually a better fit.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Others wishing to come up? I just got to tell you, that's kind of one of my pet peeves. Please, no applause. I know you guys are excited about it. That's great, but we have to listen to all sides, and applause isn't something that really works for a council meeting. But your enthusiasm is great. Come on up.
Let's see if I remember how to do this. Homer Casil, I live at 814 East Front. was a long walk over. I am the president and executive director for the Lake City Trail Alliance. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We do trail work with the city, the BLM, and the Forest Service. I believe you all received an email from me. You should have all received one. Regarding our support for the MOU for Mr. Evans's property. I want to point out, per that email, the MOU is an important piece for an upcoming project that we have been partnering with the Forest Service, the Honey Badger projects, 53,000 acres. Part of that project implements about approximately 10 plus miles of non-motorized trail. We did plan with the Forest Service to try, part of the proposed action involved access through the Concourse property. The Concourse property will be the only non-motorized access for pretty much the only non-motorized trails on Canfield Mountain. Currently, Canfield Mountain has seen a 300% use increase. The Alliance has been asked by the Forest Service to help plan and mitigate some of those activities up there. And part of that planning involves the non-motorized use and trying to get more non-motorized access. So we strongly believe that the council should support it. We support the MOU. The MOU aligns with, well, it says right on your vision statement, promotes high quality of life. Rec use, as the Forest Service will tell you, has increased. People are moving to Coeur d'Alene, as you all know. They're looking for a large amount of outdoor rec. Given the vision statement of the council, there's also the 2030 implementation plan. I believe the council, the city supported that vision plan. There's an open space protection portion of it. The plan's supposed to endeavor to find open space, protect that. The lead partner on that is the city of Coeur d'Alene. There's also, it says identify, develop, coordinate, prioritize funding mechanism. Well, the funding here is Mr. Evans is pretty much donating this property. I forget what it's a lease agreement for how much? Monte? What's the lease agreement cost?
$1 a year, I think.
So it lines up with the vision statement for 2030, lines up with the mission statement for the council. So,
All right, thank
that's
you.
my cue.
Others wishing to come up and give public comment?
Good evening, my name is Jason Smith. I'm the recreation staff for the Coeur d'Alene River Ranger District. I apologize, my ranger couldn't be here today due to fire operations. I just wanted to come support Mr. Evans and Lake City Trail Alliance in this endeavor. We, like as Al said, we're working pretty hard on the Honey Badger project, hoping to add about 10 miles of non-motorized trail to the Canfield Trail system on the north side of the mountain. That's our hope and goal, and it'll be excellent for us. We have a lot of issues sometimes where we have issues with motorized and non-motorized trail users. It's going to give a chance for those users to have a place to ride safely without conflict. Access through Concourse, as Al said, will be the only non-motorized access point. It fits in really nicely with our trail program there, and we hope it goes forward. So, if you have any questions for me, I've been willing to answer.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
just have a question. I'm aware that there's an issue about what are e-bikes and how do e-bikes fall under your category of motorized, non-motorized. I've got an e-bike, and actually my wife recently, and as I've read, and there's, like with the Trail of the Coeur d'Alenes, and for a while they weren't, and now I guess they are. So do you have any take on e-bikes and maybe how in this parcel that we're looking at? Or?
For the time being, e-bikes aren't considered non-motorized. They're still considered motorized for the for the United States Forest Service. It changes for every agency, but for the time being, the United States Forest Service still views e-bikes as motorized vehicles.
Are motorized.
So if we have a
Okay,
non-motorized
okay.
trail back there, it'll be exclusive to horseback riding, hiking, mountain biking, those types of activities. That doesn't mean that in the future, it may change to.
Right. It
members
does
of
seem to
other
be growing,
agencies.
but, okay,
Yes,
thanks.
sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Others wishing to come up, come on up. You can, right there in the corner there.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I am Denise Jessica. I am with the the Bike Pedestrian Committee. I'm the ADA advocate for our group, and this Friday we are holding our first wheelchair challenge, and we wanted to make sure that the city council and anyone that's available comes down and joins us. We'll have at least 5 wheelchairs available, and what we're going to do is we're going to start at the Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to tour down Sherman Avenue, and basically I have several people in wheelchairs besides myself, and we're going to show you the daily things that normal people that can walk wouldn't be able to see or wouldn't even notice. So sandwich boards, missing tree grates, bicycles that are attached to trees, anything like that. The dining, the seating outside when servers are outside of the seating area serving people, which they're not supposed to be, or if they have their planters outside the seating areas. All these things make a huge difference for people that are disabled. And in wheelchairs, it's like a slalom course. If the A-frame signs are just put everywhere, then we have to go around all the people that are here in town, the pedestrians, especially during the summer when the streets are super, super crowded. So this is an event that we want to show what walkers wouldn't necessarily see, just kind of to open your eyes and see what people with disabilities have to go through when stuff is not placed in the proper areas, and tight zones or sidewalks that are broken and that can propel you out of your chair, or someone with a walker that can make them fall, and so forth. So we were hoping that you guys could join us, and we're starting at the Chamber of Commerce at 2 o'clock this Friday afternoon, and it should be, if at all, 2 hours, and then afterwards we'll meet at City Hall and just see what you guys think and have any comments. So we're hoping that you can join us.
So 2 o'clock at the Chamber Friday. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would just add that, this is a very good event, and it's one thing to, be empathetic toward some other folks and their journey, but until you go exactly on it, it's not the same thing. And so I know at least some of the council are coming on Friday, and so a little bit like the old Jerry Lewis telethon is, I'm going to be there. I'm going to challenge my other council members, see who comes. So anyway, glad you're doing this.
Thank you. Others wishing to give public comment tonight?
One more.
Come on up. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Jennifer Passero, and I live at 1202 East Mullen Avenue. And I would also like to strongly encourage the City Council to approve the lease agreement with Jason Evans to manage the concourse as a city natural park. I have witnessed the stewardship brought forth by Mr. Evans and volunteers on a weekly basis over the past several years to improve tread sustainability, ease erosion, and manage invasive species on this landscape. Mr. Evans' vision and commitment to community access deserves the full support of the city. Trails have power to heal, build community, and shape generational commitment to landscapes. I recognize that property owners adjacent to trailheads disproportionately share the burdens associated with public access. My parents have lived between Canfield Mountain Natural Area and Nettleton Gulch for over 10 years. In that time, we have noticed a large increase in use on both trail systems, especially multi-use from the Nettleton access. The city's support in managing Concourse provides another official trailhead access. I appreciate the new signs that have been implemented on Shattuck to direct parking to ease the burden on the neighbors at the end of Shattuck. And I would be more than happy, as I'm sure there are many other people in this audience, to help coordinate volunteer efforts to educate, inform, and clean up after trail users accessing at both Shattuck and Copper Ridge. As trail users, we want to support private property, cleanliness, and sense of place for property owners adjacent to both Shattuck and Copper Ridge. But our community has already missed a large opportunity to guarantee multiple access points to public lands. My husband and I moved to Coeur d'Alene from Helena, Montana. In that mountain town of approximately 32,000 people, the Prickly Pear Land Trust manages 25 official non-motorized trailheads in town, providing access to over 80 miles of trails. The Concourse provides the only non-motorized access linking Canfield to national forest lands from town for approximately 50,000 people. Please approve this lease and provide another access point to public land. The solution to ease the burden on adjacent property owners is not to limit access points, but to work collaboratively to add more trailheads to the system. Let's approve this lease agreement and then, as a community, figure out how the city and Mr. Evans can maintain public access to the Concourse in perpetuity. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come up? All right, we will move on now to announcements. Any member of the city council have an announcement tonight?
I have just one. The Historic Preservation Commission's action plan is going to be available to the public in a public meeting on the 24th of August, and you can access that via a Zoom link that I believe will be posted to the city website, so you can click on the city website and see what their plans are before they're finally approved.
All right. Anyone else have any announcements? I had a piece of official business. I would like to appoint Stuart Wagner to the Parking Commission, if council so choose to do that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. One final announcement that I have is that it is a birthday today for the man behind the glass there, Jeff Crow, and on behalf of all the city council, I talked to Woody about singing, but then we decided maybe singing isn't our best thing. But
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Anyway, thank you. I just want to wish you a happy birthday, Jeff, and you do a fantastic job for the city. So you enjoy your day. Woody, so you're up. No more singing. Why don't you just do the consent calendar?
I'd like to move to approve consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consent calendar? Roll call, please, Kelly.
Gookin.
Yeah.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Motion carried. We'll move on to other business. This is resolution number 21-046, setting the preliminary budget for fiscal year 2021-2022 and scheduling a public hearing for September 7th, 2021. Troy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have put you through 2 workshops and multiple hours on this. Your work here tonight is according to Idaho code that we need to set what we commonly refer to as the high water mark. Meaning when we go to the public hearing, the first meeting in September, we will not be able to exceed $109,700,499. Included in this proposal, which again is not being confirmed today, but it's being set, is revenue that would include a 3% property tax increase in revenue to the city of Coeur d'Alene, and the new growth that we're eligible to take of $322,260. And it does not include anything that is called foregone property taxes. So again, this resolution has this as its basics. It has new income and property taxes proposed at $700,738. That is a 3% increase from what we've received. For our constituents, a year ago, you reduced property taxes in the city of Coeur d'Alene thanks to federal dollars of $5.5 million reduction in property taxes collected from our constituents. The zeros are years that you took no increase in property taxes. You have the largest amount of foregone property tax authority in the state of Idaho. That means you have not been taking the 3%. It goes to a category called foregone. Foregone is a taxing authority. Unfortunately, it's not a bank account. So in that, we look at the preliminary levy rate. The levy rate will go up because we're also bringing back $5.5 million in property taxes that we did not levy last year. Overall, this is per thousand. Your levy rate continues to go down because the valuations are going up so rapidly. So again, looking at what new construction is done, this is an interesting slide. You have looked at it. We have studied this. We hear a lot about growth. Well, our new tax dollars from property taxes is not really that high compared to, say, 2015 or 2016. That's new growth. There's a couple things playing into that number. One is the fact that our legislature lessened the amount we can take in property taxes from new growth this year, and our levy rate was higher because our valuations have gone up in the past. This is what we are looking at. At the end of the fiscal year 2020, we had $9.7 million in your unassigned fund balance. If everything held together as it was proposed, we were going to go into fund balance and would end up our fund balance at about $8.5 million the end of this fiscal year. Your comptroller does a great job, Vonnie Jensen. We will probably be better than that $8.5 million thanks to the stewardship that you show and that the directors deliver. If we went into fund balance fully, the fund balance would drop. And that's what you've been studying, you've been looking at. In the world of finance, you always want to have a rainy day fund, you want to have a savings account. 2 months worth of revenues for the city of Coeur d'Alene is about $7.5 million. So you have been maintaining a healthy fund balance. It has allowed many opportunities. In the past 24 years, the city has never borrowed money to fund its payroll prior to property taxes coming in. It's called a tax anticipation note. We do not know how to do it because we've never done it with the team that you have here. Total increases in general fund is a little over $4 million. We would make that up with a tax increase, new growth and annexation, a little bit of fund balance, and state funding has been very solid. $1.8 million in new state revenue year over year is very significant. A large percentage of that can be attributed to highway user and the gas tax. Sales tax has been very solid, and liquor sales have been very good, and we get receipts on that. This is what drives our city. It's the personnel costs. This is a significant portion of the increases, merit increases, cost of living increase. Public safety has a wage adjustment in it. I would suggest the good news in this is that our health insurance with zero increases to the plan is a $136,524 increase. That is very manageable for this city, and we are proposing new people that you have been looking at. There's an increase to services and supplies for ongoing needs and an increase to capital outlay. This would be the House Bill 389 that impacted all of our neighbors and our cities in the fact that we cannot do what we could do. Meaning, you can take 3%, you can take your new growth, and you could take urban renewal districts closings or URDs. They now put a governor on that you cannot increase your budget by more than 8% from any one of those sources. That will significantly impact the city of Coeur d'Alene as the Lake Urban Renewal District closes next year. So the maximum amount we could get is $1,422,543 based on where our income has been from property taxes. As we were looking at the city and planning, we were anticipating almost $2.5 million or a little bit more in urban renewal dollars plus new growth, and that will now be limited to this approximate $1.4 million depending on what we do. Looking to fund our public safety. So in the plan, subject to your approvals, a police sergeant, police officers, there's one that is a change that is grant funded. We already have that position filled. We are proposing 3 brand new firefighters, 1 assistant street director, and we actually net out real favorably with a couple of those changes. You studied those when we were looking at parks positions that are going to be mechanics for them and some of those changes. We also in building maintenance have moved around some of the part-time positions. And so the directors were doing everything they could to net down our full-time equivalencies. Capital purchases, we have vehicles for the police department. We have equipment that then goes with those vehicles. The car actually is the lower cost in the total package. We have some station flooring in our fire departments. The virus eradication continues throughout our city. Anywhere that it could rest, we want to get rid of those places. We have maintained our used surplus equipment line item. We need to change out a chiller unit at the police department. We hope that the weather helps us make it through this warm season. And then we are proposing to look at some roof repairs. This is a tax scenario on budget reductions. If we did the 2%, we are going with the 3%. So obviously we've made some cuts and some changes to this. And this is what we're proposing. A 3%, we would be able to not get everything done. We had to whittle away at this quite a bit as you've been working on it. Your goal was to keep our fund balance withdrawal, or coming out of that, at $1.1 million, $1.2 million. So that's what we have put into this proposal. This 3% would include those positions and those capital expenditures. We are getting numbers in all the time as we update things. We are the early August. This takes effect October 1. We have to balance a budget before we know everything. So I thank you for your latitude in allowing us to give you more data, set the high water mark, and then come back with a more refined budget in approximately 1 month.
So I want to reiterate that tonight is a procedure to set the high water mark, that this budget is far from final. We are going to talk about budget again on the 17th of August. We're going to talk about budget again on the 7th of September. This is a procedure. We've gone through 2 budget hearings. We're going to go through 2 more. There's a lot more work. So if anyone goes out and immediately posts on social media that the city of Coeur d'Alene is taking a 3% property tax increase, that the decision is done, that's not the case, right? So there still is a lot of work to be done over the next month before we finalize that budget. So council questions of Troy? So again, what council would need to do tonight then is setting that high water mark, which is a procedure. You might just talk about what that procedure is it state code? Is it,
State code.
So it's a state law that you have to set what your high water mark is, the maximum amount of property tax. You have to set it by a certain date in August.
You're correct. Yep, we do it every year, and it is subject to change, just as been reiterated. So we're going to bring you some more good news on this as the numbers keep coming in.
Mr.
Christie.
Mayor. Thank you, and I appreciate the discussion on the budget, that we're far from done with a lot of things that we've talked about, what we think are important, and you'll see a lot of the things that we've started to coalesce around are all really involving public safety, because we know we have to prioritize that. So I appreciate, first I want to say I appreciate how hard the mayor's been working on this budget, and you, Troy. But you've, in particular, have spent a large amount of time on it. So with that, I want to make a motion to set the preliminary budget for 21-22 at a 3% high water mark, scheduling a public hearing for September 7th, 2021.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion on that?
Don't we have to set the dollar amount?
It would be appreciated if that included the 109 million.
The motion has to include the dollar amount.
Or can you just say the resolution?
It's in
To
there.
approve the resolution?
I can amend my motion to include the resolution number 21-046.
Further discussion?
Just
Kiki?
one item. In future, when we bring this budget, especially in these short briefs forward, I'd appreciate if the items that are contractual, when we look at a brief overview of increased expenses, there are some things that are not, like our COLAs, they're contractual. They're not something we can just take out and change that line item. If those can be designated as contractual, in other words, they're numbers we can't change, I'd appreciate it.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Kelly?
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller,
Aye?
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin.
No.
Motion carried. Move on to General Services, Public Works Committee. This is Resolution Number 21-047, approving a lease agreement with Jason Evans to manage the Concourse as a city natural park, and the Law Enforcement Mutual Aid Agreement with Kootenai County Sheriff's Department for enforcement of state and county laws. Monte?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So when I first started with the city 15 years ago, one of my first jobs was to make a trail system out of 20-some acres of natural area that was given to us during the Copper Ridge development. And so it took about 3 years, a lot of volunteers, and we made some great trails in there. But the whole time, we were looking at people mountain biking, hiking, even motorcycles, going between our property and the Forest Service property. And so we tried to work out an agreement with the previous property owner to get some trail easements, and it was a little difficult. He wanted to, but then he changed his mind, and so we were always kind of worried that this property would be developed and we wouldn't have any kind of connection between the two government agencies. So a few years ago, Jason Evans purchased the property from Marvin Erickson with the intention of allowing the public to use this property for public recreation. He'd found out that, according to the county, that you have to have something in place to protect yourself, the people that go up there. You couldn't just open it to the public. So they let him know that he had to get a special use permit to operate a public facility on his property. There were some issues with that. One thing, he would have to do all the enforcement himself, like people camping, fires at 2 o'clock in the morning, campfires. It would be pretty problematic in a property that big. So he approached the city, and we met a few times trying to figure out a way to make this work so that we could run it like a city park. He'd still own it. We would lease the property from him, I believe, for $1 a year. I think that's our typical arrangement we have with other people that own the property that we manage parks. And he would post the rules that would be similar to our ordinances for city parks, and the county would then, the county sheriff's department would then enforce those rules. And the reason why the county would enforce those is because it's in county property. So Jason has been up there working for the past couple years, building trails, rehabbing the whole area, because there was a lot of erosive trails from motorcycles going straight up the hill. And so trying to make it nice again. At one point, that property was clear-cutted probably 20 years ago, and so it was a pretty big eyesore for a long time. Trying to make it look nice again and have a nice corridor of connection for non-motorized use up on Canfield. And so I'll come to you to ask to enter into a lease agreement with Jason Evans for the city to manage the Concourse as a natural park, and to enter into an agreement with the Kootenai County Sheriff's Department for law enforcement mutual aid.
Questions for Monte?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would just highlight that both Monte and Bill went through all the procedures, brought this to the Park and Rec Commission, and the Park and Rec Commission supports this concept and has passed it on to council tonight.
Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Monte, you said we have other parks we lease?
We do with the BLM.
Oh, with the BLM?
Yeah.
So it's not private property?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Monte? If there are any.
Oh, I have a question, a legal question. Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Mike, if someone is using this, the city's leasing it, someone gets hurt on it, who do they sue?
Well, they could sue anybody they want, but they'd would not get money from the city. The recreational use statute protects us for, as long as we're not charging a fee for any use. So we would be the lessee of this property. We would have control over it. But again, we would be protected on that. As far as a claim against the owner, again, he's not charging a fee. So I think it would have to be some type of gross negligence or something of a hidden danger that he was aware of that was hidden from the public for him to be liable, which is my opinion. So I don't think there would be much risk of any liability for either us or Mr. Evans.
Okay. The BLM property is in the city. This is not. Is there any other place where we have a legal liability that's outside the city limits?
Well, I can't think of a property. No, I can't.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Kiki.
I was just on that line, wouldn't any of where we have easements where there are water lines with other cities, wouldn't we have some sort of liability in those sections? It's not the same thing, I just thought there was a conversation for possibly a precedent, so.
I'm not sure where we have water lines. That's kind of above my pay grade, but I think it would not be something that concerns my office from a legal point of view. Again, unless you're charging a fee, governmental entities are protected by state law from liability. So, for personal injury.
I forget, did we have a motion?
No.
I would like to make one, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion to approve resolution number 20-047, approving a lease agreement with Jason Evans to manage the concourse as a city natural park, and law enforcement mutual aid agreement with Kootenai County Sheriff's Department for enforcement of state and county laws.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Dan?
No, wait, go with Amy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
Okay. I just wanted to thank you, Monte. I know that you and I have had discussions for years, and I just appreciate your passion and your work. I also wanted to extend sincere gratitude to Jason Evans and all of his work in keeping this land or opening it up to the public, and to thank everybody for coming out tonight to share their thoughts with us. It's much appreciated.
I'd like to echo that from another perspective in working with, attempting to preserve open space for the general public, for view, for the health of our community, for the recreation of our community. I can't think of a better partnership with the least amount of investment that the city could make on behalf of all of the citizens who can benefit from this in multiple ways. So I appreciate everyone who's involved and the volunteers who have been for years taking care of this and apparently intend to continue to do that. And I think it's just a unique and a great opportunity.
Dan?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really uncomfortable sending a government taxpayer employees onto private property to maintain it. I know that that's our obligation, because if we're going to be having a responsibility there, we are going to do that. In your report, it says it's not going to be much time, and it seems like there's plenty of volunteers who are going to take up the slack. I'm not going to be Mr. Popular. I can't. It's not in the city. I wish it was in the city. I wish it was annexed. I wish it was gifted to us, something like that. But it's not in the city. Sorry.
Any other comments? Roll call, please. Kelly?
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
McEvers?
Yeah.
Gookin?
No.
English?
Yes.
Motion carried. Okay, for those that were so excited before, I'm going to grant an exception. You can applaud right now. And I too wanted to thank Jason Evans. What a great gesture for the community, and I just hope that everyone that is here tonight and others in the community will really enjoy it for many, many years to come. So thank you, everyone, for showing up.
Great. Please stick around for this important wastewater thing.
We're talking cake.
So we'll move on.
Centrifuge.
Move on
So
to
exciting.
move on to resolution number 21-048, acceptance of a bid and award a contract to GEA Mechanical Equipment USA Inc. for the purchase of centrifuge dewatering equipment in the amount of $419,100. Mike Becker.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. And thank you for the opportunity to present wastewater's recommendation for purchasing of a new centrifuge dewatering equipment. I'm so disappointed. I mentioned the word cake and everyone laughed. Okay. Well, located at the south end of our wastewater treatment plant property within our solids building, your wastewater department currently uses two different technologies of removing water, liquid waste from solid waste. That is a centrifuge and a belt filter press. This slide shows the difference between the two. The centrifuge essentially spins the water out of the solid waste. The belt filter squeezes it. The belt filter that we are currently using right now was installed in 1999. It's exceeded its useful life, and it's currently used as a backup unit only. We are primarily down to one centrifuge dewatering unit. So based on our growth projections, as well as in conformance with our facility plan, the wastewater department requested HDR develop a capital improvement plan addressing not only the replacement of this belt filter press, but also of our entire solids handling project. This led up to a much larger project. Fast forward to today, well, actually, let me take a step back. In October of 2020, when considering a purchase of a new centrifuge unit, we were notified that it would take up to 6 to 8 months. So in an effort to minimize project duration, contractor overhead, delays associated with waiting on the delivery of the equipment, the wastewater department decided to request for proposals on centrifuge equipment. We were looking to pre-purchase the equipment prior to the construction project. That way we could take delivery of the equipment, have it on hand. The contractor wouldn't be experiencing delays as a result of shipping or whatever. So, again, this project was originally scheduled for next fiscal year. Now, fast forward to today. We decided to do a procurement in conformance with our purchasing policies. So last March, we solicited a request for proposals. The intent was solely to pre-qualify contractors based on the manufacturer's ability to provide the equipment, the manufacturer's ability to provide biosolids or separate the liquids from the solids in the concentration that the wastewater department needs. And then they were permitted to bid on it. On June 17th, we received four bids. This slide shows that all four manufacturers met the qualifications, met the bench testing, and provided bids. Now, looking at this, all the manufacturers had some kind of cost adder. And so HDR, with our legal department and myself, reviewed all these bids, and we found that the cost adder that GEA is proposing is for a controller system that's compatible with the treatment plant's existing controller system. In other words, the new centrifuge would be able to communicate with everything else in the treatment plant. And that request for that control system was a $17,600 cost adder added to their base bid, bringing the total bid to $419,100. All three of us, again, the legal department, HDR, and myself, found GEA's bid responsive. And even with this cost adder, they are the lowest bidder. We currently do have the budget authority for this procurement. So that leads us to our next slide here. This will be the first GEA Westphalia centrifuge that Coeur d'Alene is proposing to install. So we don't really know much about it. We called around, reached out to Napa. Napa returned our calls and told us what to look out for. But they found that the equipment that they purchased, which is the exact same size as what we're looking at, met all their criteria. Their treatment plant is somewhat similar to our treatment plant. Napa is so pleased with the Westphalia's performance that they are actually purchasing a third unit in the next fiscal year. So with that, it's the department's recommendation that council should accept this bid and award the procurement contract to GEA for the purchase of the centrifuge dewatering equipment in a total sum of $419,100. And that concludes this presentation. I'll entertain any questions.
Council questions for Mike? Amy?
I just have one clarifying question. I think you answered this and I missed it. The three other bids did not include the added communication piece, the adders, how it was listed?
Yes, some of them, they all did.
Oh, they did, okay.
But it was also included in there. There was various cost adders. The only one that we found that would be actually needed to get the equipment operating was that controller system.
The $17,000.
With Westphalia,
Okay.
GEA.
Thank you.
Kiki?
And Mike, my only thing, we discussed this at our committee level, and I had missed this question on my notes. The engineer's estimate on this was between $700,000 and $800,000, and the price came in at $420,000-ish. Are you concerned about the vast difference in that, or was there things that were eliminated? That's just a big gap.
That's a fair question. The estimate was revisited post-COVID. And so we took that into account. We revisited with HDR. We wanted to be on the safer side rather than the other side of all these bids. And their estimate is pretty close to what we were thinking of. Originally, we currently have what is called an Alpha Laval centrifuge. It's a smaller centrifuge. And so we took that into account, went with a bigger centrifuge and used Alpha Laval's kind of a base price unit. And if you, in the staff report, you'll notice that they were at $500,000. So our best guess effort post-COVID, we came in a little high.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we'd be looking for council action.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to approve Resolution 20048, accepting the bid and awarding contract for GEA Mechanical Equipment U.S. Incorporated for the purchase of the centrifuge dewatering equipment in the amount of $419,100.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Kelly.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
McEvers?
Yes.
Gookin?
Yep.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mike.
Good evening.
So we'll move on to our public hearings. We have two public hearings tonight. They are both legislative hearings. There are sign-up sheets for anyone that was wishing to testify. And we will have Dennis Grant. And so this is, the first one is legislative hearing V-21-03, vacation of a 10-foot strip of right-of-way adjoining the easterly boundary of Lot 22 and the second half of Lot 21, Block 3 of the Casimir Edition plat known as 401 South 18th Street. Dennis.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The applicant, Todd Butler, is requesting the vacation of the 10-foot strip of right-of-way at 401 South 18th Street. There's a exhibit there that shows the area to be of request. The requested right-of-way was originally dedicated to the public in 1907. The vacation of the requested right-of-way would not have any financial impact on the city and would add approximately 600 square feet to the county tax roll. Although a minor amount, it would be a benefit to the city as tax revenue and to the landowner. This portion of 18th Street has an 80-foot right-of-way. By vacating the requested 10-foot strip of right-of-way, it would be more consistent with the typical 60-foot right-of-way of streets that are south of Sherman Avenue. The right-of-way can be incorporated into the development of the adjoining property. All utilities are existing and in place, and there is no foreseeable use for this right-of-way. The development review team was informed about this vacation, and attached to the staff report is planning's comments. And then also you should have received a copy of, we did receive some comments in the mail. I believe there was one. And then we did receive, let's see, I got a tally for you. We sent out 53 certified mailings. We had 4 responses. 2 were for and 2 were against. I did verbally talk to a gentleman, Clarence, and he didn't leave a phone number, so I couldn't call him back, but I tried to look him up in the phone book, but there was a C, but it was the wrong number. So anyway, recommendation, should City Council approve the vacation action per Idaho Code Section 50-1306 and to vacate the property to the applicant Todd Butler. I do have a overall aerial map if you would like to see that too. It might help, please. Okay, so the one we're talking about right now, there is 2 vacations tonight. They're on the same street. Is 401, which is this location right here. And there is existing sidewalk and curb at this location.
Can you zoom that in a little bit?
Well,
for us older folks.
Yeah, this is a picture. I don't know if we have city map on the computer. I have another picture here. Hold on. That is zoomed in.
Jesus, help me.
There you go. So that shows the sidewalk. This is zoomed in between 17th or 18th Street.
What exactly is shaded there?
That there is the existing lot. The first exhibit showed the 10-foot, that blue hatch line, that was the area requested to vacate. So I can go back to that.
If the vacation, keeping it on this slide.
Okay.
If the vacation is approved, we could say that yellow rectangle would get taller on the bottom by 10 feet.
You could. Yeah, add 10 feet to the bottom of that.
Okay.
It would be short of the sidewalk for sure. There's still plenty of room, because normally there's a 60-foot right-of-way on these streets. For some reason, back in the early 1900s, maybe it's because of the mill down there, or whatever the reason was, that was maybe a main road back in the day. I'm not sure. But there is 80 feet there, and the request is to take 10 feet of the city right-of-way.
Sorry, I just went ahead and asked.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So This would effectively make their property extend 10 feet out, and the properties to the left and right extending north and south would not extend that way.
That's correct.
This does affect the setbacks for building and remodeling the existing structure.
It would.
Did you know if there's any plans currently have been submitted or have been discussed regarding remodeling this home to take advantage of the new setbacks?
I did not research a building permit, but the applicant is here, and he would be willing to answer that question for you.
Very good, thank you.
Christie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question was similar, so it's not contiguous, it's
That's
just
correct. Just
one
one.
strip.
Mhm.
Is there any discussion about why wouldn't we just make it contiguous down the whole street? Why just one lot?
That would be the best scenario. We've done that in the past. A couple examples. Well, the one example I can remember, you may remember we did on Fifth Place, north of Foster. It looked like a street, but it was an alleyway, and all the neighbors went in together. And there was a building permit, and the remodel didn't meet setbacks or something. And so it was suggested that they do a vacation, and so I brought that vacation to you guys, and you approved that. And that one, they did get everybody on that block to go in. There was one we just did on 4th Street for Cal Auto. That was just, I think, last year, or it might have been this year, that did a portion of a block. And that's really the only one that I know of that we've done a piece of a block.
Well, I understand that we only have one applicant asking, but I'm just wondering if maybe a better way, if you're looking at adding 10 feet of property onto the tax rolls and fairness to the entire neighborhood, maybe that's a better way to go.
I guess, Christie, there may be some people that don't want it. I think that would be the only,
Don't want to mow 10 more feet?
well, they do, they still have to mow
Hey.
it, right? But it could potentially increase. I don't know, Mike, is it, you would have to get everyone to be in agreement that they want that added before it could be added. You could get some people that don't want ownership of that 10 feet because they can use it now and they don't have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah, I mean, I
Good
think
point.
the city can decide to vacate the city right away if they want to. I think it'd be probably de minimis to the property owners. Typically, it's a property owner requesting us to vacate our property, but yeah, I think the city could vacate property that we have as right of way if we want to.
As a gift. Yeah. Other questions for Dennis? All right. We'll move on to were you all wrapped up there, Dennis?
Yep,
I didn't
thank
mean to
you.
cut you short there. Thank you. So we'll move on to the public testimony portion of this. We'll open the public testimony, and I have a couple of names on this list. I have a Nathan Norman at 510 South 18th. Nathan, do you wish to give some comment? Come on up. And just your name and address for the record, please.
Okay. My name is Nathan Norman, and I represent two addresses on South 18th, 515 South 18th and 510 South 18th.
Okay.
And I'm against this. I'm currently under construction. I don't have any photos for you, but next door to one of these vacates. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow them their setbacks different. And I do have a set of prints here that is for the ADU and the garage. And with the new setbacks, when I built my house and I went in for permit a couple years ago, under my new construction house now, I used the existing setbacks that were set by the city. And if this is vacated, their unit's gonna extend 10 feet past mine, 5 feet next door to mine, and which is, I had anticipated that somebody was gonna build a vacation unit on this rear lot. I built a few of them myself, and I built a privacy wall on my personal house there, thinking, well, within the setbacks, I took that into account when designing my house, and with this additional 10 feet, the vacation people are gonna be looking right inside my master window and towering right over my house, and I've lost all my privacy to this house that I've been working on for about 2.5 years. And I have another house that I scheduled for demolition across the street, 510, and even if it was made across the board, I could use those new setbacks, but a majority of the neighborhood is already new construction, and we've already used there's also a couple more houses on that street that are under construction, and they use the current setbacks. And so the only people that are really going to benefit from this is anybody that has a scraper, you tear down in that division that's trying to, it's about $35,000. Under a lot cost in our neighborhood, it's about a $35,000, how I have it penciled out on what it is per square foot and what the current rate of these lots going for. That's about what each homeowner would gain in property value, but that's only if they're going to go towards construction. And so I agree, I read some of the comments and I agree with the planner that it's gonna be bad for our entire neighborhood, and so do some of my neighbors.
So Nathan, you're signed up here and you're signed up at the next one.
Yes, sir.
They're both related to save you.
I don't need to get up twice, no.
Yeah,
I said my piece.
To save you a trip?
Yeah, thank you, sir, I appreciate it. No, I just didn't know which one I should get up on,
Okay.
so.
All right, I want to make sure you got all the
I said
info
my
out.
piece, so,
Okay.
all right.
All right.
I have a question.
Go ahead,
Nathan.
Woody.
So when you talk about that, I understand how it looks. If everybody did it, would it change anything? It's not going to change much for your new place if everybody took the extra 10 feet, right? If the city just said, let's just do the whole neighborhood so it stabilizes it.
It would change the setbacks for construction, so the people that have the existing houses that aren't gonna be under construction are gonna be affected, because it's gonna put all the new houses 10 foot closer to the street when our houses are that far back, which puts their decks looking back towards our houses with the standard construction down in our neighborhoods.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
Todd Butler. And Todd is the applicant.
Yes,
And so just name-
Todd Butler, 401 South 18th. So, first of all, I mislabeled, that's not 17th Street, that's the alley. So I'm not going from street to street, so that's the alley behind my property. But I'm representing both these properties, one for myself, one as an architect. You guys hit on just what I wanted. Vacate the whole thing. There are 3 blocks south of Sherman Avenue. There's from Mullen to Young, Young to the dead end on 18th Street, those 2 blocks. And there's 1 block on 16th, I believe, from Mullen to Young. Those are the only 3 streets south of Sherman Avenue that have over a 60-foot right-of-way. So in comparison, if you're familiar with this area, which I'm sure you all are, 15th Street, which has a light, 11th Street would have a light, even 8th Street here, those are all 60-foot right-of-ways. Mullen Avenue is a 70-foot right-of-way. We're in this little pocket that has this 80-foot right-of-way. I bought in 1989, and as a young guy, as a young architect, had dreams of doing stuff with my home. But I got into it right away, and I noticed that my house was built right on the setback. I went down this path probably 25 years ago, talked to the engineering and said, hey, what's the deal with this right-of-way? Can we vacate it? And they said, yeah, if you could get everybody on your street to do it. I went down 3 houses, and my neighbor said, what do I want 10 more feet to pay taxes for? Got shot down instantly. I just let it sit. And I subsequently did remodels to the rear of my house. I did other things. But now we jump forward to this time, and my client down on Young and 18th, his daughter bought that property, and they were looking at putting in an accessory dwelling unit. And he once we started looking at it in plan mode, we started looking at how far that property line was away from the street. And I told him, I said, well, yeah, I'm very familiar with that. We have this huge right-of-way. And he said, well, is there anything we can do about it? And I said, we can go down this path again and look at a vacation of right-of-way and trying to limit, instead of having a 30-foot driveway or 30-foot plus to get to your home, bringing it down to more of a 20, 25-foot driveway. So that's where this all came about. When I talked to the city, I said, hey, why couldn't we just vacate the whole thing? And they said, if you get everybody to do it. Well, I'll give you an example. On my street from from Mullen to Young, just my street, 18th, we've had 4 houses that have been raised and replaced with 9 new houses in the past 3 to 5 years. And then standing on my property today, and again, I've lived there for 30 years, I just look around and I counted 13 new construction projects. So it's a changing fabric. It's a changing area. And my personal interest is with that extra 10 feet, it might give me the opportunity to have a larger living room if I stay here. So that's my personal reason. And like I said, 1724, that's got some other, we're looking at that from a planning standpoint. But what the previous speaker was saying, it doesn't limit us from doing the ADU. We still have all the rights to put it right where we are with the current planning and zoning requirements. We can make it fit. It's going to be that much tighter where currently we've adjusted it we've got plans in for permit for that ADU. And I was very specific on there, showing it on the site plan that this is this would be with an approved vacation of right-of-way, but it leaves the ADU like a 11 or 12-foot backyard. It can all shift over if it needs to. So it's unfortunately a reality of that project will go through regardless of the vacation or not. It just would be, I think, a better project if this extra 10 feet was granted to us.
Any council questions for Todd?
So, Todd, I'm trying to, when you're talking about the ADU that was there, it seems like the previous testimony said that's what they were concerned about, that ADU is what would infringe on their privacy of their master bedroom.
I took a photo of that.
So what you're saying,
I wish you had something that I could overlay it on.
So what you're saying is that regardless
it's
of
gonna
whether
go.
the 10-foot is vacated, that potential concern of the previous testimony, having it infringe on their privacy, would happen either way.
Correct. Okay. And I will say for the record that the master bedroom window that he's referring to is probably about a 2-foot high by 4 to 5 foot high with a 4 to 5 foot high sill. Next to it's a bathroom window that's 2 foot by 3, and then he's got 2 big picture windows in his garage. That's all that's facing on that 2-story wall. So it's not an egress window. His egress window has to be off the backyard, and that's nothing that it's how you look at it, things. So I don't think we will be much of an impact, but it'll actually make it worse for him. If it slides down, it will be directly from that window.
But you would still have the ability to, his other concern was that your porch would be out 10 feet in front if you made your living room bigger, and so you would be looking back on
So those are 2 different issues, right? So, and actually the design of that ADU has something similar to what he has, which is an extended porch off the front. ADUs are pretty small, so you look for living areas where you can get it. So this has a large 2nd-story porch, and then you drive under that to a garage. So, the whole thing would just shift in order to work in the current requirements.
Thank you.
Woody?
So Todd, you talked about 9 new homes in your neighborhood? These are scrapers?
Yeah, there were 4 homes that were taken down and 9 new ones, all put on single lots, where all 4 of those others were one was on a triple lot and, 3 others on double lots.
So I guess my question, or I'm trying to understand what it would look like if you get the 10 feet and somebody else doesn't, then somebody else gets it. Does it change the?
I'll give you actually an interesting example. South of my house right now, the house directly south of it, I don't know how this ever happened, but that garage is already non-compliant. It's sticking out probably as far as I could go with the vacation. The house south of that is my neighbor that originally 25 years ago said, no, I don't want any more property. And in talking to him, I had a lot of great conversations with neighbors over this too. But he was going, Well, God, we'd kind of like to do that too. We'd like the ability to bump out our house. But they're already non-compliant, so they can't do anything really to their house because they're already non-compliant. And then actually my neighbor directly across the street who's here tonight, we had that same conversation, which is, so 4 of my neighbors that I talked to that all want to live in the neighborhood, that don't want to sell and tear down and start over, they were all kind of excited about what I was doing because they said, well, that'd be a neat opportunity because we'd like to stay here, but we'd like to expand our house a little bit. I will tell you this, all of the designs of the new homes, I can say probably without exception, are already extending further because, and I don't know if this has been on the books forever, you would think I should know that, but front porches can extend into the front yard property line as long as they're unenclosed porches, and all of the new designs have taken advantage of that. So it's, if you look at kind of the fabric of the street, they're all actually projecting further than existing homes to begin with right now.
Okay. That seems to be an issue with our planning is as we look forward to density increases, people wanting to live here, are we messing with the vibe? Are we messing with the feeling of our neighborhoods? All those things that are important to people. And that's where, one thing jumps out and it kind of creates this big question mark on all these other issues. I didn't realize that the city could just abandon the right-of-way. I thought that was interesting. But, yeah, it kind of an interesting dilemma.
I think one other thing just to consider when you look at that is our street compared to almost every other street south of Sherman, there's 20 more feet of city property and yard and those kind of things. So when you talk about would that really impact the neighborhood or kind of the fabric of the city, no, it would just take us kind of similar to the rest of the city. It'd give us that same opportunity that the rest of the areas south of Sherman already have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, just some feedback. And Woody too, is that, it seems like it has definitely changed. And I'm born and raised here and remember, have the sense of, the houses, of course, were smaller, and then there was a lot more yard and all of that. And now it just, you can see that as you drive around, and was just, mentioning to my wife, they are taking every footprint, the largest footprint for the buildings and the houses, and so it's kind of like that ship has already sailed a while ago in terms of people, lining up and gee, their porch sticks out more, or the whole house, or we have houses on the side here where it's practically eave to eave sticking into each other, and that's the way it goes, and I can, empathize with that, but again, as far as this exact decision for this vacation, I'm not sure, how much of that pertains, but I do wonder, I guess one thing kind of nagging at me, and with what Christy said too, and some of what you've said is, should we just go ahead and make this one decision on its own? And actually, I feel like we're kind of getting some of the other vacation mixed in with this, but I guess we're on the same place. Or should we step back and say, maybe we should look, if that's all there is some couple of 3 streets and some sections, maybe it would make sense to look at that as a whole, or maybe that's not appropriate. We need to wait for people to come owner by owner to us. So I guess I'm a little unsure on that.
I'd like to share just one other quick little comment, which is interesting, because I've said the same thing. Everybody's maximizing, they're splitting lots, taking them down to single lots. They all have the right to do that, and they're building within setbacks. What I found interesting is the second part of this other property that we actually have a planned project for, the accessory dwelling unit. I find that kind of exciting because within those rules, they say, hey, this can only be this many square feet. It has to be within this area. And you have to provide 30%, I think it is, of green space remaining. I wish the standard R8 would do that, because these big houses wouldn't meet that, I don't think. I'd be very surprised if they do. So actually, the ADU encourages smaller homes, those kind of things, and would be really a good fit for this, for the other property that we were talking about.
Okay, all right,
Anything
thank you.
else? Thank you.
I did have one more name on here. I had Clarence Dunlop, who is in favor. Clarence, you wish to testify?
I was just exposed to this just this last week. I didn't even know it, and I got the letter in the mail.
So just your name and address for the record, please.
Clarence Dunlap, 404 South 18th Street,
Okay.
right across the street. My house is grandfathered in. It was been there since 1937, when the mill was there. Front of my house sits on logs, okay? If I want to make some corrections on my property, I don't even know if I would be allowed to do that, to bring it up to code as it is right now. If I wanted to make changes and bring my house out a little bit, or expand it, make it a little bit wider, because it does sit, because of it being grandfathered in right now. I don't know what I could do with it, but if you brought that property line out on my our side of the street, that would allow me to make corrections, modifications to my home, which actually needs to happen anyways. So I'm in favor of Todd's idea. I'm thinking, now as I'm sitting here, thinking, why would the rest of the city have that much right-of-way and I don't? You know, I should be allowed to have that same area of space. If the city was to vacate it, it would allow me that area. So why the rest of the city, not me? I should be allowed to have that opportunity.
Thank you.
Sure.
You know, I'm just thinking through this, and the line that the planning department put here, that they would be in support of the request if the vacation request included all the property owners for the full block. I'm just wondering, should we continue down this path of individually approving, and maybe we're required to do so, or should we go back and look at doing the whole block and bringing it back? Now, we probably have this in front of us, we could probably make a decision, and maybe after those decisions we can decide. But I just wanted to throw that out for everyone's, if anyone had a comment on that.
Mr. Mayor?
I think, sorry.
Go ahead, Woody.
I saw that our planner was out there. I was wondering if we could bounce some of this off her. Think that's appropriate?
Yeah, Hillary, come on.
Well, she's here.
I'll just have.
It's no free ride, Hillary.
She can comment and then I'll.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So questions for me, you said?
Well, what's your take on this? You kind of threw this thing at us that, oh, that makes sense, kind of made us look at it a little differently. Is it appropriate? Is it reasonable? Is it something that really can happen without making a bunch of people angry?
Well, and that's why the planning department, we felt like we needed to share comments on this just so council could see. The recent vacation that Dennis had referenced that was in this email was on 5th Place, and we did require that all of those property owners came forward and supported that vacation request. And in that instance, it made a lot of sense because it was a continuous right-of-way line. It didn't have just a singular property jut out. And it also does affect any future properties, right, that do want to do redevelopment. If you only have one that has the vacation and the rest of the properties don't have that same right, then it does create just kind of an odd street frontage and streetscape. So that was definitely the comment in here. We weren't saying we're opposed to this, but just wanted to share those comments and concerns, and we would be much more supportive if it was for the full street, or at least for one side of the street.
And other questions for Kiki? You have a question?
Mine's just a follow-up to that. It seems like, unless you're a real savvy developer doing a remodel, you may not come and ask about the opportunity to vacate to gain an additional 10 feet. So doing a pumpkin tooth thing up and down the street could cause some real conflict in the future for remodels or reconstruction. So it seems like it would be a great idea if we could have staff go back and take a look at what can we do to just vacate and make this more standardized with the width of the rest of the city streets.
Mayor Widmyer?
Oh, go ahead,
Can I give you a
Mike.
comment? So I did look up the statute just now, and I was wrong when I told you that we could just do that. I think Idaho Statute 50, Idaho Code 50-1321 talks about the necessity for consent of adjoining landowners for that vacation of a public right-of-way, any part of public street, public right-of-way. So I believe we would have to have consent based on this statute of the landowner who would be the receiving party of the property. So, sorry about that.
Yep. So a property owner would have to agree. To have
Right,
that.
so the idea that we would let's just do the whole street on our volition or our idea, we can't do that without consent of the landowners, so, sorry.
Yeah, Mike just took away my proposal.
Oh,
For both sides of the street, so, but I would still suggest that that would be a better route to go back, take no action on this tonight, and go back and contact the property owners to see if there's interest.
At least that way we'd make sure they were aware of the situation and what's happening and what could happen in the future. That, I'd be more comfortable with that too.
And Dennis, could you come up for a minute? The second hearing here, that is also the case?
It's similar, so whatever you decide on this one, whatever you decide could be the same, or just postpone the second one, or however, whatever the clerk's office, I don't know the code, how that works, but if it depends on what you decide.
So these are.
They're separate, but.
They're separate, but both the same issue of having, someone's going to get an extra 10 feet, but someone's not.
Very cookie cutter. Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to suggest that we put a time frame on it so that our applicant isn't, we aren't waiting a year on this.
So, was there a fee on this, and is it like special use permits where they had to do a mailing of affected neighbors?
Yes, I had to do a mailing. I sent out 51, I think, on this one. 53 on this one, and there
And did
there
the
is an
applicant-
application fee, yes.
Applicant paid a fee. So, I mean, it wouldn't be fair to let everybody else in for free or have the mailing, but if we do something, so I guess in my mind, I'm coming around that we probably ought to look at these as standalone decisions, but hopefully the rest of the people on the street will take a look, and maybe they will, kind of get together and say, gee, we should do a joint application for the rest of it, and we certainly should look at, I would hope, something like that, both sides of the street.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I think we're off the rails here. We have one item to discuss, and what we're discussing is basically trying to coerce a lot of people on a street to do something that we think is bitchin', but I don't know if they do, and quite honestly, it's their property, and they should be able to do with it whatever they like, as long as it doesn't interfere with anyone else's. So I'd just like to focus on the issue at hand, which is this one parcel and the one request. Thank you.
And we can do that. Certainly can do that. So, all right, so is there anyone wishing to give more public testimony on this issue out in the audience? We have a second hearing that, so we'll wrap this one up, and then we'll come back and we'll do it all again. All right, so we'll close the public testimony portion of that and look for council action.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to dispense with the rule and read Council Bill 211017 once by title only.
Second.
Motion and a second to dispense with the rule. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to know, so is it council's intention, I know we do this backwards, but is it council's intention to grant the vacation then?
I think that's the right thing to do. I mean, he's requesting it, we're talking about the rest of the streets and everybody else's, and I get that, but like you said, this is the issue before us. Are we turning them away because we don't think the rest of the people are going to?
I think it's a bad idea, and I don't support it at all. I think it's going to be, like Kiki said, the word you're looking for is crinoline, and that it's going to make it irregular. If you read the comment from Glenn Lauper, who used to be our deputy fire chief, he said it's going to make it more difficult for emergency vehicles to get through. These are important considerations. There's a planning department makes a good point, which is, wow, we're on the same page, is that it brings a lack of consistency to the neighborhood.
Well, how is it going to impact safety? The street stays
Let me
the
ask Dennis
same.
that question, Dan. Is it, how is it going to impact, we're not changing the street,
No.
so it wouldn't be,
The street is not changing, so it wouldn't change the.
Just reporting what's written here.
Yeah.
You all got this. I know
Yeah.
you all read it.
That's Glenn's comment, yeah.
yeah. All right. So we had, dispense with the rules.
got a motion,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's a second. Any further discussion on dispensing of the rules? Roll call, please.
Miller,
No?
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin,
No.
English,
Yes?
Wood,
No.
Evans.
Yes.
Is that a 3-3?
Yep.
And I'm a no.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make it official and deny the vacation request V2103.
Okay. Motion, do we have a second to deny, and to deny that request? We have a second to Dan's motion?
Oh, I'll second that.
Motion and a second to deny that vacation request. Further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would like to encourage the applicant to not just go away and think this can never happen. I really do think that it is an issue that we have one area of town with an 80-foot right-of-way, and everyone else is at 60 foot. So hopefully we can bring the neighborhood together and make it contiguous. But for right now, it's just too big of an issue to do one parcel.
And I would second that. I would agree to that. If you got all your neighbors, even just on one side of the street, and you made it consistent, yep, that'd be great.
All right. Any further discussion on that motion? Okay, so the motion again, Kelly, if you'd repeat the motion. So the motion is to deny the vacation request. And then roll call, please.
Miller, McEvans,
No.
Oh,
I
Kiki did.
I was trying to go, well, it's a deny so that it's a yes.
okay, McEvers,
No.
Gookin,
Yes.
English,
No.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
No.
What was the count there?
3-3.
Is that 3-3? And so I am a yes in supporting of the denial there. Okay. All right, so now we will move on to the next, we'll go through the process. This is legislative here, V-21-04, a vacation of a 10-foot strip of right-of-way adjoining the eastern boundary of portion of Lot 6 and 7, Block 13 of Casimir Addition, plat known as 1724 East Young Avenue. Dennis, go through and do the report again.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So the applicant, Todd Butler, on behalf of Savannah Hill, is requesting the vacation of the 10-foot strip of right-of-way shown on the screen there. And it's at 1724 East Young Avenue, which is the corner of Young and 18th Street. So it's still on 18th Street. That's where the vacation request is. The vacation of the requested right-of-way would not have any financial impact on the city and would add approximately 1,150 square feet to the county tax roll. As you already know, I'll just summarize. It's an 80-foot right-of-way. Typically, the street right-of-ways are 60, and everything's existing. The planning department has their comments attached, and there was 2 written comments on this one, so you should have copies of that. If you don't, let me know. And the tally on this one, drum roll please, 51 were sent, and we had 6 responses, 1 for and 5 against on this one. And the recommendation is, should the City Council approve the vacation action per Idaho Code Section 50-1306, and to vacate the property to the applicant Savannah Hill. Thanks.
Wood, you got the tiller.
So, any questions for me while I'm here?
Sorry, I didn't see him leave. Any questions?
Okay.
Moving on. We've got to open for, is there some people want to talk to this?
Well, there might be. There's some that are on the list, but they may not want to come up a second time, but they're welcome to.
Okay. Nathan, Norman, want to come up again?
Nathan Norman, representing the house directly south of the highlighted house and the house directly across the street with the driveway in the front of it. And I'm totally for the ADU, just as long as they use the existing setbacks. I don't believe any of my privacy will be infringed on if they use the existing setbacks. I'm totally for them putting an ADU in. When I've designed and built my house, I anticipated that somebody was going to do an ADU. I've currently built 3 ADU units above garages in the Sanders Beach district to date, and plan on doing more of them as long as the code holds. And I think it's a great idea. And so I just want the setbacks to stay where they're at. You know, I think it's fair for everybody on the street, and because there's a lot of, you look right there, there's I think 1, 2, 3, there's 4 brand new houses that are already built under those existing setbacks, just in that small block of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses. And that's all I got for you guys.
Dan.
A question for Nathan. So Nathan, you were here, you heard the discussion earlier. What was your feeling about having all the neighbors go for that 10-foot setback as well?
I don't believe it'll happen in our neighborhood.
Okay.
Christie.
Thank you. Nathan, you also heard the testimony that the project's going to go forward regardless, and it'll be the same impact on you. What's your
No, that's
response?
awesome. So my house is designed to have the ADU within the current setbacks. So my privacy won't be infringed whatsoever. What'll happen, can I walk towards the board?
We can't hear you then.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't hear me towards the board, okay.
There's a
What'll
mouse
happen is if you extend the setback 10 more feet towards 18th, it allows him to come out 10 feet farther towards that street right there, which at that point does infringe on the, if you look at the set of prints that are to the building department now, it has a big deck that's staring right directly at. Now, if they push it back to the same set points that were I have a deck off my balcony too. Our decks are going to be aligned, so it won't be one guy looking back at the other guy's window, if you could kind of picture that a little bit. And so we'll all be just Legoed up, you know, just block, block, block. And there's some guys that might be a little bit, but 10 feet's a lot of room, especially when we're building as close as we are down there to each other.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next on the list, Todd. Todd, do you wish to come up?
Yeah, I'll just be brief on this. The way it was explained to me was everybody on your block. There's only 2 houses on this block. So Nate's, of course, obviously against it. He's south of there. Savannah's property is the only other one on this block. So it's kind of a 50-50 kind of situation there. I guess everybody has different viewpoints. I'm confused on how the additional 10-foot impacts his place. His is basically a 2-story wall that faces north, that faces this property. So it would project more towards 18th Street, obviously. But yeah, that's the only difference of impact on this, you know, that this vacation would provide.
Council questions for Todd? Christie.
Todd, do you and Nathan have discussions? Do you anticipate further discussions?
I don't know. I've never met him. You know, like I said, I've lived in the neighborhood for 30 years, but there's just been so many new people. That's why it was daunting for me to even go down that path. I've met a few of the neighbors, and they were up for one weekend from California. You know, it was just overbearing to try to think, how can I get all these new people that live on the street, you know, in a time frame. This one's of more concern because they're ready to, you know, move forward with construction as soon as possible. So I think this one's a higher priority than mine, unfortunately.
It'd be great if you and Nathan were able to chat.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it would be, well, really Nathan and you know, Savannah or her father who's representing her, because I think it would be a benefit to both of them, personally. And it's only 2 people that need to agree rather than 11 or 12 on my street, or on my block.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Next on the list, Kirk Hill. Kirk, come on up.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, name and address for the record,
Yeah,
please.
Kirk Hill is my name, 6430 East Maplewood Avenue, Post Falls. It's my daughter, Savannah, that owns that house, and I know Nathan really well. He's, not really well, but he's a great neighbor, great guy. I went to the city about the vacation, and they said, you should consider that. They actually brought it to my attention, and Todd, who lives on the street and has for 25 or 30 years, brought it to my attention too. Otherwise, I wouldn't have any idea about it. So obviously, Nathan would have the opportunity to add 10 more feet onto his house, and that's kind of a nice, that's a nice feature. And to get everybody to agree is pretty difficult, because some people don't want to mow their lawn, some people do want to mow their lawn. Some people want to have a smaller house, some people want to have a little bit bigger house. So that's pretty tough, that's a hard one to quantify. But being it's an 80-foot space and everything else in the neighborhood is 60, the reason I was told was because the mill they thought was going to be over the hill, and they wanted this huge thoroughfare through there, but it never went there. It's just kind of a big, huge mountain over there, and there's nothing there, a bunch of rocks. That's all. So anyway, it fits on the property as drawn nicely. It's just, like you say, it just makes for a lesser long driveway and a little more green space in the back. That's basically all the 10 feet would do. That's what it does. You got an asphalt for 30 feet, or concrete driveway for 30 feet, or a concrete driveway for 20 feet. That's it. So I do have a picture here that can show you the side view of the house if you'd like to look at it. I don't really have any way to put it on the map, but I can bring it up and show it to you. Is that all right?
Yeah, go ahead and bring it up.
Yeah, that's from the side view.
You have to speak from the.
That's from the side view of my proposed ADU and next to Nathan's house. So you can see there, you can slide it up or slide it back 10 feet, and it's not,
I'm not confused. So, I'm confused. So is this structure Nathan's house?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. And all that land and the side of it is Savannah's property, my daughter's. Yeah.
Questions for Mr. Hill from council?
We can keep this, right?
You can keep it. Mm-hmm.
All
So,
right, doesn't look like.
We need to talk Nathan into adding 10 more feet. He has a lot of energy. I know he'd love to do it. I know he'd love to do it.
All right, any questions for Mr. Hill? Anything else to add?
No, that's it, really.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to move forward with it, and obviously, that land is not used for anything. It's grass right now. It's been that way. Sprinklers are there, bushes are there. It's part of the yard. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That was the last name that I had on the list. Anyone in the audience wish to testify any further on this issue? If not, I will close the public testimony portion of that and look for council action. Start with dispensing of the rules, if anyone would choose to go that route.
I'd make a motion to dispense with the rule and read Council Bill number 21-1018 once by title only.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Roll call, please.
McEvers?
Yes.
Gookin?
Sure, why not?
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next up on the list is to ask the city clerk to read the title.
City Council Bill Number 21-1018, an ordinance of the City of Coeur d'Alene vacating a portion of right-of-way located in the Case-Meyer Addition Plat, recorded in Book B of Plats on page 129, Records of Kootenai County, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, generally described as the 10-foot wide strip of land adjoining the easterly boundary of a portion of lots 6, 7, and 8, block 13 of said plat, repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing a severability clause, and providing for the publication of a summary of this ordinance and an effective date hereof.
Okay, so we'll be looking for council action.
I make a motion to adopt Council Bill 21-1018.
Motion, do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion and a second, further discussion.
Voting no, same reason.
Any other discussion on that? Roll call, please. Kelly?
McEvers? Gookin?
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute. So,
Sorry. I was pondering.
so Woody, we'll go ahead and,
Yes.
Woody's a yes.
Gookin is no.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
No, for the same reason, but I want the applicant to come back with an agreement.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
So that I have 4 yeses.
Yeah, 4-2.
So the motion is carried. All right.
I'll do a motion that there being no other business, that this meeting be adjourned.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.